Okay, so as I look through my code, I noticed I had a number of violations of the law of the meter. Because I'm comparing, what I want to do with this test is verify that the ride is driven by this driver. And here I'm just kind of comparing last names and I'm violating the law of the meter. So that's not great. It's kind of terrible actually. So what I really want to say is I want to assert true. Assert true that the retrieve ride is driven by this driver. So at the same time, I'm going to get rid of this getDriver method because it's just going to be too tempting to keep using it, and really I should not be using that. So I'll do that here. I'm going to implement this method. It's going to be an app user. I don't want to say that return this driver get ID equals driver get ID. Oops. Okay. All right, and at the same time, I have the same problem here. So I'm going to assert true that accepted ride is driven by this driver. And I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so now the test pass. So the other issue here is this right here should be abstracted away into a method. I should be able to compare two users. So really what I want to say is return this driver is this driver. This is an app user. So return this get ID equals user to compare get ID. Okay. All right, let's make sure the test pass. Okay. Okay, so getting back to our use cases, the last thing we did was to be able to accept a ride when it was requested. So first we did the happy path where we accept a ride by a prospective driver and we verified that when that happens, the ride status ends up being accepted, and we verified that the accepted ride is indeed driven by the driver that we just created here. So then we handle an exception case where if we are trying to accept a ride, but the ride has already been accepted or is in a status other than requested, then we throw a ride lifecycle exception. Okay, and then the last thing we did was to verify that only a user who has the role of a driver can accept a ride. So now we're going to look at marking a ride in progress. So only the driver should be able to mark the ride in progress. And also you should only be able to mark a ride as in progress if it has been accepted. Then we'll tackle the canceled use case and then completed. We're not going to do rejected and expired because those should be handled differently. So let's get into making a ride in progress. So let's do some refactoring because there are things that are going to be useful. These two lines here, I just want to make a convenience method called get new driver. Get new driver. And then I'm going to rename this to new. Okay. So now I can get a new ride and a new driver. Okay. So let's get these things. So considering an accepted ride, I want to be able to say mark ride in progress on the accepted ride, and the new driver is going to be the person marking the ride as in progress. So from here, I should be able to assert that assert true that it's of a ride event. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I've worked on this, so ride stat. Ride event type. In progress. status. The write status is going to be get write status for our accepted write. Okay, so right now the test is going to fail because this method does not exist. Alright, so we'll return the write here. So we'll call our write event repository and mark write status by actor. We're going to pass the accepted write, the driver, and its write event type in progress. That should be all I need to do. And this should make this test pass. Okay, we're good. So next, a write should only be in progress if it has already been accepted. So let's see, I named the other one. Test in progress. Marking write in progress if not accepted. Throws exception. So I'm gonna get a new ride with a driver, but this time around I am not going to accept the ride, but I am going to attempt to mark it as in progress. And if I do that, then I should expect an exception. Expect exception of a ride lifecycle exception. So this test should fail because I don't even need to return it here. This test should fail because I'm not throwing this exception right now. Failed asserting that exception is thrown. Okay, good. So now I'm going to go back to my mark ride in progress, and I'm going to say so if not ride event type accepted equals this get ride status, and throw a new ride cycle exception. So I'm going to do this. Okay. So this should make the test pass. Okay. So there's always an opportunity to refactor, and I just forgot to do that, but obviously this could be extracted. So I'm going to say validate ride is accepted. Okay, so I'm consistent with my implementation here. And here it is. Do my tests still pass? They do. Okay, we're good. Next, we should also make sure that only a driver can mark a ride in progress. So test marking ride in progress by non-driver throws exception. So I'm going to have a new ride. And I'm going to get a new user, get saved user, and I'm not going to mark the user as a driver. But then I will attempt to mark the ride in progress still. By this new user, and this new user should be a non-driver user. Okay. I do need I do need a driver though, because I need the driver to accept it. driver to accept the ride. By the driver. So basically I end up with an accepted ride here. Then I introduce this new user. I'm going to try to make this user mark the ride in progress, when really it's the driver who should be doing this. So when I do this, I should expect an exception. This, expect exception, user not driver exception. Okay. So I create a new requested drive. I get a driver for this ride who is going to accept the ride. Then I get this rogue user who's not a driver who's going to try to mark the ride as in progress. So this test should fail because this exception is not being thrown. Okay. So let's go back to our method here, mark ride in progress, and I'm going to call my very convenient method that I created before, validate user is driver. Okay. Now, presumably this test should pass. And it does. So we could go crazy with edge cases, but really what I want to do is something stronger than validating that a user is of a driver role. I really want to make sure that the person marking the ride in progress is the person who accepted the ride in the first place. In this case, this method, this exception, really what I'm trying to call out here is the user is not the driver role exception. So I just kind of want to rename this to make this a bit clearer. So user not driver role, not in driver role exception. All right. We'll make things a little bit clearer, and this method I just want to rename it to be more accurate as to what my intent is, but it's validate that user has driver role. Okay. So I could keep this test. I may find it overkill later, but for the sake of argument, let's just keep it for now. But I just want to add a method that says test marking ride in progress by user other than assigned driver. I'm going to make it like by a driver who is other than the assigned driver throws. So it's a similar situation as before. I have a ride that was accepted by a driver. Then I'm going to add a rogue driver user. So get save user with name rogue driver. And I'm going to try to make this rogue driver marked ride in progress. Sorry, I'm refactoring a little bit to just make things a bit clearer. So when this happens, I should expect an exception. So this expect exception. Driver acting driver is not assigned driver class. So the driver who's trying to perpetrate this is basically not the driver who was originally assigned to the ride. So this test is going to fail because first this does not exist. So let's make it exist. Source exception. Okay. So I move it to the right. Yeah, so it's add bundle exception, and that's going to extend the exception class. Okay, cool. So now this test should, even though this class exists, the test should still fail because I'm actually not throwing the exception just yet. Oh, I need to import it. Here you go. So now I should complain that it's not being thrown. All right. Actually, so my rogue user, I'm still going to make it a driver. So this your service make user driver of my rogue driver user. Okay. So this is still not quite the behavior, the failure that I want. But now that I'm doing this, I should get the proper failure. Okay, failed asserting that acting driver is not assigned driver is thrown. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to say if not accepted ride is driven by past driver, then throw new acting driver is not the assigned driver. And that's an exception, so I should rename this properly. Exception. Okay. Alright, that's better. So, does my test pass? Okay. Alright, so now we made sure that only the proper driver can mark the ride in progress. With this said, let's do some refactoring here. I'm just going to validate driver attempting driver is assigned driver. Okay. My test still pass. Yep, there you go. Alright, so now let's save cancel for later. Let's look at completed. So only a driver should be able to mark a ride as completed, and you should only be able to mark the ride as completed if it was in progress. So so I'm going to reuse this. Get ride in progress. Okay, so then it's test mark ride as completed by driver. So ride in progress, will this get ride in progress? Yeah, I do need access to the driver. I'll pass the driver into it. extract the ride status. And then I should say search through ride event type completed equals the ride status. And that should be it. So this test will fail because this method does not exist. Okay, so let's make it exist. Right. So I'll just return the ride in progress. Nope. Let me just move this up. This ride event repository, mark ride status by actor. The ride in progress. Right, this is app user driver. Okay. So if I made this in progress, for example, the test should fail because this should be false. Right. So this assertion fails. I want to make it as completed. Here we go. So now the test should pass. Okay. And before going too far, I want to refactor a few things because I got some duplication that I'm really not crazy about. So move this up right here. Just going to call this get accepted ride. Yes, do this for the other one. Replace. Okay. That's a bit cleaner. Do my test still pass? Of course they do. Alright. And let's do some more refactoring. I'm not a fan of the fact that I'm calling make user driver here again when I have a get new driver method. So let's say take function get new driver with name first last. Let's see this get save user with name first last. Okay, that's a bit cleaner. So okay, new driver, rogue driver. There we go. So now I can get rid of this. Okay. That's a bit cleaner. Test don't pass. Okay, good. All right, so similarly to what we did before, we just want to make sure that the driver marking the ride as completed is actually the driver who's assigned to the ride. So test marking test completing ride by driver other than assigned driver throws. So I'm going to get my new driver. I'm going to have my ride in progress. Then I'm going to introduce my rogue driver again. This get new driver of rogue driver. So now I'm going to attempt to mark the ride as completed by my rogue driver. And so if I do this, I should expect an exception. So this expect exception of, what was it called? Acting driver is not assigned driver exception. Acting driver is not assigned driver exception. Okay, here you go. It's a mouthful. So this test should fail because I am not throwing this exception. Fail asserting that this exception is thrown. Good. Gonna go mark completed. And as convenience would have it, I'm just going to reuse this method. Validate that the attempted driver is the assigned driver. Boom. And now the test should pass. Alright. Alright, so next we want to make sure that we throw an exception if so test completing ride if not in progress throws exception. Okay, so let's do a little bit of refactoring. get accepted right here. I want to be able to reuse this, so okay, so this will become useful to me up here. So I'm going to have a new variables, this get new driver. And I'm going to try to mark the ride as completed. By the new driver. So I'm marking the ride as completed, but the ride is accepted. It's not in progress yet. So in that case, I should expect an exception. Ride lifecycle exception. Okay. So this test will fail because I am not throwing that exception just yet. Okay. So let's go back to our method here. If not ride event type in progress equals this get ride status of the ride in progress that's supposedly in progress, then throw new ride lifecycle exception. Okay. I should make the test pass. Okay. And extract this. Validate ride is in progress. Okay. Test passes. Yes.